hashtag very Asian, and we should play a drinking game as to how many times we say that today.
Maybe for the listeners, for our listeners today. That's what it's saying.
Welcome to The Worst Asian Podcast, where a couple Asian American millennials give you our shitty opinions on all things Asian. My name is Linji. I'm here with my co-host, Ben. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm good, dude. I'm very well. I missed you. It's been a minute.
I missed you too.
What?
Not really.
Oh, of course. I was like, whoa. I thought I had something there.
Are you excited, Ben?
I'm personally very excited.
Today, joining us on the podcast, we have a very special guest. Or should I say, very Asian guest.
I like that.
Is that too cheesy? Is that low-hanging fruit?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it's appropriate for this moment, this time.
Anyways, I am indeed very excited. Our guest today is very special and yes, is very Asian. She is our favorite news anchor.
Yes.
Lover of dumplings.
Yes.
And of course, queen of the hashtag very Asian movement. Let's welcome Michelle Lee.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Wow. That is so nice. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here on the, I should say, the best worst Asian podcast.
Best worst Asian podcast.
We will take that.
We will definitely rebrand. Michelle, as a fellow parent, I have a rejuvenated love affair with time. So I really want to thank you for sacrificing some of your time to be here with us today.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Well, you know how hard it is. And our kids are the same age. So
yes, they're both 3 years old.
They are wild.
Wild is the PG version of how to describe it.
Oh my gosh. Three-nagers is a real thing. Everyone said that 3 was worse, than 2.
Terrible 2s.
I didn't really believe it, but now we're like, midway into the 3s and I'm like, oh my gosh.
We're on almost the same point in that roller coaster, you and I.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. If I'm not paying attention to my son, he'll be like, Mama! And then he'll just take stuff off the table with one swoop. Just whoosh, and start throwing things. And I'm like, dude, chill. Please.
Starving for attention there.
I know.
He's like a drunk dude at the bar. I need another drink. Hurry up.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get a bartender's attention.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And now he starts doing, Mama, did you hear me? I want ice cream.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, who is raising you? It's insane in my house. It's really crazy.
Oh, man.
Just to backtrack for a sec, I would say 99% of our listeners know who you are and know what you're about.
Yes.
But just in case, for the very select few that have been hiding under a rock or maybe doing a digital detox for the past 2 months, can you quickly describe what happened to you and the infamous voicemail?
Oh.
Yeah, it's so weird. Now I describe it, and it's like talking about somebody else because it feels so long ago. I'm a news anchor in St. Louis, and I was working on New Year's Day. On New Year's Day, everybody and their dog has this thing where they talk about the foods that Americans eat for New Year's, and it just so happened that day I said something like I read the script beforehand because you're supposed to pre-read the show, before you go on. And actually you're supposed to contribute too. You're supposed to. No, I'm just kidding. That's so terrible.
Very important.
I like that.
You're supposed to do your job.
Oh, man.
That sounded so awful. I'm sorry.
No, that was good.
Shoot. Well, I do contribute. But anyway, you're supposed to so a producer writes the whole show. They build it or stack it or whatever, and they keep us on time. And then, I contribute with my own stories. They always say that the anchors are the last line of defense, basically, because you can, a producer can write something, but it's coming out of my mouth. So I just want to make sure that everything's right or whatever. So there was one story that I don't want to say it's a throwaway story, but it's 20 seconds tops. This is what Americans eat on New Year's Day. And it was like, I was reading and it was like cornbread symbolizes gold and pork is for progress and greens are for wealth,
Okay.
And so it's basically all wealth. That's all.
Yeah.
And I literally had looked through my Instagram feed earlier that day and saw all my friends eating dokguk, and like I had dokguk, which is a Korean rice cake soup.
Very delicious. Very traditional.
Delicious.
Very traditional.
Yeah. and and playing like all the games and stuff, like the Korean games. So I was just thinking, like, wait a minute though, like, who really eats this stuff? Like, who really sits there and is like, I need greens for New Year's? I didn't say it that way, but so I just said, hey, can I add a line? I realized in retelling the story, some people think that was asking for permission. It was not. It was more so like, just don't advance to the next story, because I want this time. And so, so the producer was like, yeah, sure. And then when I told her, because I'm going to add like this thing about like Asian stuff, and she was like, oh yeah, that's great. So I mean, it wasn't great enough to like add a new full screen. It was just ad-libbed. Eventually, I just said, oh, I had dumpling soup for New Year's, because that's what a lot of Korean people do. I didn't say mandu. I didn't say tteokguk. I didn't even say rice cake. Like, I just said dumplings.
Straight up dumplings.
Yeah. Which I really thought like, oh, I'm going to get my Korean card taken away from me. But I mean, can you imagine if I would have said like tteokguk, like this?
Yeah, lots of people have been very confused.
Lost their mind.
You're being selective about like how to word this properly. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right away, I actually had just two comments that were like, oh, thank you so much for saying that, because our youth sees that. That was on Twitter. And then on on Facebook, someone wrote, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because my wife was born in Korea and our daughter's making that soup for the very first time.
Oh.
So here I was like, oh man, like this throwaway story became like this inclusive moment. Like 20 seconds, who's even paying attention? Like, also, who's watching the news on New Year's Day? I appreciate it.
That's true too, yeah.
I mean, most people are still hungover, like I'm just, thank you. Thank you for watching. I need that. So I was like, oh, so I'm going to post this on Instagram, because I think this is like really cool that, that this throwaway story was something. But then, like a couple hours later, I was sitting at my desk and my assignment editor was like, WTAF, and sent this voicemail to me, because we all get it through emails now, I listened to it and I was like, what? I like couldn't believe it, because this woman said she was offended because if a white anchor talked about what white people ate on New Year's Day, they would get fired. And that I was just being very Asian and I needed to keep my Korean to myself. And it was annoying. She said, it was just annoying.
Woo.
And then she ended it with like, so just talk about what white people eat. Thanks.
Oh,
okay, bye.
Yeah, okay, bye.
And the thing that surprised me the most was how young she sounded. Like, I would expect kind of voicemail. Honestly, I would expect that kind of voicemail from someone maybe who was in the boomer category.
Right. Yeah.
But she sounded like she could be my age, And so I was like, whoa, wow. So I recorded myself listening to it, and then I uploaded it to Instagram and then Twitter. And then I, like around 9:30 or something, I went out to the set to like just kind of get ready and all those things for the 10 o'clock news. And it just really hit me. Like my friend, who's also the meteorologist, his name's Jim Castillo, and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I just started like breaking down. I was like, not really.
Oh,
like
shit.
Yeah. Because at first, you go through this wave of feelings. Like you're like shocked.
You're not sure how to feel.
Yeah, you're shocked. You're like, it's laughable, and then suddenly you're like, holy moly, like this is really actually kind of depressing.
Right.
So anyway, I actually didn't know if I was gonna, I don't get like this very often, but I didn't know if I was gonna make it to the 10, because I was like,
oh wow,
just really down about it.
It was just clouding your mind the whole time, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Well, because there are lots of different things. Like we made them. I grew up in Missouri, but I hadn't been in Missouri for a long time. And so, and not that any other place is better by any means, but like living in Seattle, living on the West Coast was just kind of a different vibe, with, especially in the AAPI community. Granted, there's racism there too. And people were getting actually beaten up on a consistent basis because they're just more Asian people, So it happens everywhere. But like Missouri has been a transition for me, because it was like, okay, once you come home, you're home forever. And I came home during the pandemic because there were a lot of changes in my life. Like the show that I was anchoring was put on hiatus during the pandemic. We lost our daycare. My mom died suddenly. And when my mom died suddenly, it was like, we got to get home. Oh, thank you. But we were like, we got to get home. Like, what are we doing out here?
Right.
We love Seattle, but it's time to come home. So I was just like, man, is this gonna be my life, like in Missouri? Like, is this just it? Like, now I'm gonna be othered a lot, and like, and then is my son, who's, mixed race, is he gonna be, what kind of experience is he gonna have? I just started feeling like all these things. And then did my newscast and went home. And my husband was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Not really."
Right.
And then overnight it went viral. I woke up and I was like, "Oh my God, what happened?" So that's a long way of that's a long description of what happened. Sorry about that. That's
No.
my quick
No
10
worries, no worries.
First of all, moms are the best. So,
Yeah.
I saw your video. We saw your video, and I was like, man, we need to give Michelle a hug. It's like, that
I would
sucks.
take it.
Yeah, that sucks.
Well, because your mom, well, I mean, the relationship that I had when I would say something like, "I think this person was being racist," my mom would be like, "Hell yeah, they were. Let's go kick their ass." I mean, not really, but like that was her.
That was the mentality she had.
Right.
Yeah. And she's the only person like that. Like, my husband has come around to that, right? But like, a lot of times, like, maybe my family members would be like, "Well, do you think he really meant that?" I'm sure that was just not the issue, but my mom was like ready. She was fisticuffs like right away.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
So,
She's like, where does she live? We're going to go right now. Let's go to her block.
Yeah. And see, and that's the kind of, I mean, because it's just nice to like have your mom 100% trust you. And even if you were wrong, like just to be like, we're going to get this right. So it was hard to like come home and be like, well, who's going to, I mean, my husband was there,
Of course,
but
yes.
I mean, it's just like you miss your mom and all that stuff. It just started feeling really heavy for so many reasons,
definitely. COVID does that. COVID, once it happened, you start thinking like, what's really important and what do I need to focus more on? So we totally understand that.
Yeah.
I guess also, has your mindset or like your feelings changed from like then until now?
Yeah. I mean, lots of things have changed. So
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's a part of me that feels like, okay, Michelle, you need to chill because also you didn't get hurt. Like, there are people who are really getting hurt every day, getting murdered, but I do think that there is there's also this like invisible thread that we all, can relate to, that we have all been othered or
100%.
none of us have gone unscathed. I'm sure of it, to where people have said stuff where you're like, what the hell? Like, what? So to me, it's like, there's a connection there that we all know and we can all relate to, and probably have all experienced.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I hope I never experience an actual, beating in my adult life.
Physical hate crime.
Yeah. So,
can I ask, have you reached out to that particular person that left you the voicemail?
oh yeah, I did. So
you
night
did?
the night before we did the commentary, or before I did the thing, I reached out to her in a voicemail and I just said, "There's no shame. I just want to know if you want to talk because, we're going to do this commentary and I'd love to speak to you." I didn't think she would call back, but she called back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she called back right away. I mean, not right away. She called back and right away apologized.
Oh, okay.
And she said, "I'm sorry. That was me.
Okay.
And I never meant to hurt you." But then I was like, but those words were kind of
Yeah. I just tilted my head just now. I was like, wait.
This is where it gets kind of messy, and this is where I just kind of leave it as she apologized. I accepted. We're moving on without her. Race is complicated. We all have like levels of scar tissue and experiences, and we're not going to get everything solved in one conversation.
Of course not.
We did say that we would meet again when it's COVID safe, but like it's weird because it's like not my job to make people an anti-racist.
That's true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we all have work to do. Like there are lots of things about culture and race that I don't know, and I just want to be empathetic and on the right side of it and corrective. So no one's perfect and no one goes unscathed, and I do think that I want to give her grace, and I also want her to be safe. Like, I don't want her to be, out in the world afraid to speak. Someone might notice who she is, or someone, it's not worth it to me. It was it's just like I feel like I benefited so much from it. It was a gift. And not only that, but like our community, and our friends were like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, but let's show our pride, let's show our pictures. And then in solidarity, so many solidarity posts. So I felt like it was a real gift. Granted, I don't want to be her best friend.
Right.
I don't want to hang out with her on Sunday brunch.
I was actually thinking about that. Yeah. Hopefully this kind of moment can bring people closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It was really amazing how you had like a lot of humility and grace handling the whole thing. This is what we need. We need to love and forgive.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's.
I think very often our first reflex, especially as Asian Americans, when we have things like this happen directly to us or when we see this happening in media, at least my first gut reaction is to get very angry and very confrontational. But being a parent, I think that changes my mindset. Pump the brakes. Think about it again. How can we turn a very negative, shitty experience into potentially a learning experience?
Right.
And then, hopefully pass those lessons on to our kids so that hopefully the next generation can be more understanding and empathetic of others.
And maybe moving forward, this could be a thing where we can laugh 5-10 years like, oh my God, remember how silly that was? Now everyone's the best of friends and stuff.
That would be the dream.
Yeah.
That would be the dream.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that in my, I think that you do so much better when you build bridges and you can kind of come forward with actionable change. It doesn't mean that I didn't for a minute want to kick her shins and tell her to go pound sand. It just meant
she's like, Michelle's like, yo, hold my earrings. Hold my earrings. I'm taking them off.
Kick you.
She's taking off her rings.
Yeah, exactly. But it just means when you get to a point after the anger, then what's the actual what's the harm and what's the lesson, because, you think about, especially as a parent, you think of what all the things that your kid will experience and all the wrath that your kid will, put out in the world too. I mean, kids are trying on different things at different ages and you just have to steer them in the right direction. Adults are doing that too. And you can't have progress without pain, all those things. I really believe in it. It's weird because you want to be seen. And then at the same time, I want to be unseen. I don't want to always be seen as this other person, I don't think I am all the time, but that's how that made me feel,
That's so true too. You're now thrust in this position, whether you like it or not, to kind of be, as I was joking before, the queen of this hashtag very Asian movement, right? Yeah. For lack of a better word, I'm just going to say movement. But the past couple of years with all the shit that's been happening was a very... I don't want to phrase this
it was defensive.
Yeah, perfect. See? That's why you're the news anchor.
using her words. We need Michelle's words.
Stop Asian Hate was a very defensive vibe that it gave off. But more recently with what you're doing, it feels much more positive. Instead of being angry at something negative that's happening to us or trying to be, as you said, more defensive about it, let's be very Asian. Let's be more embracing of what we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very proud of having you as the ambassador.
Whether you like it or not,
you've been
thrust in that position.
Sorry, Michelle.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. It's a lot of pressure.
It is, right?
I can imagine.
Because I feel like I don't want to let anybody down. So we're we have this foundation now. So with the foundation, did you know that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So sorry, because I don't know how much people know and I forget how much I share. So we have a foundation now. After going on Ellen, she gave us this money. And so we have this foundation. We've got a very small board so that we can get organized. If we had the bigger the board right now, it would be problematic in terms of getting shit done, so it's you've got to have a small board so you can be can we decide on this logo? Can we decide on this website? Okay. Right. Boom, boom, boom. But I have talked to so many people about actionable change. And I have always thought these things, and I'm sure you have always thought about certain things. Right. But it's how do you get people to mobilize? And then what if you make a misstep?
Yeah, there's so much to consider.
Yeah. And I don't want to disappoint anybody. Are we not moving fast enough? Are we moving too fast? How much up to speed do I need to get on X, Y, and Z issues? One of my friends asked me to share something the other day, but it was pretty it was pretty critical of the government. And I just was oh, I just don't know if we're going to do that.
Sorry, girl, stop.
That's so true now because you're now in the spotlight for better or worse. And you have to really think hard about everything that you say.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, I still have a day job. So I have to keep in my day job lane and I have to keep in the foundation lane. And they can't They will cross. It's, of course they're going to cross in some ways, but I really need to be credible to keep my job because I need my benefits. I need my insurance. I need my pension.
We don't have universal health care here in the U.S. for our international listeners.
Yeah, for our international.
Very important.
Health insurance is not good.
I was on the health exchange for a brief time, and that was not enjoyable for me. So I would really like to keep my benefits.
All right, there you go.
So it's things to navigate, and I don't have all the answers 6 weeks out from this incident. So that's the thing. But do I think that people shouldn't be deported? Absolutely.
Yep.
For X, Y, and Z. But I can't But when your post says something like, screw the government, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can share it.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's interesting because I did have a conversation with another organization that you may know. We are donating money to stop AAPI hate right now.
Yep. Hey.
And I think it's great because you have to, without safety, you can't have anything, right?
Agreed.
And really they're good about data collection. But the other things that you might not know about Stop AAPI Hate, for example, is that they are about actionable change. They're about equity in education. They're about language access and getting communities to provide that for people who call 911 or who need translation services and are victims. Like that. They have a youth program. They have all these things happening because ultimately, even when we see very sad incidents in the news, which we have, continuing to amplify that also perpetuates issues. And I amplify those too, but it's the idea of where's the change? We need to get the change, so sometimes sharing those horrific videos or we need people to know, but at the same time, some of that seems like clickbait. Right?
That's true too, yeah.
And so we need people to get on board without just sharing the violence, but sharing the change. What's the action happening in New York? What's the action happening in San Francisco? How do we get people to have more access to their government? For example, if you talk to Stop AAPI Hate, they'll tell you that most of their data and most of the reports that are coming in are not actually hate crimes, but they are serious assaults.
Oh.
So what that tells them is that when someone calls 911 and they don't get the language access that they need, that can also present more trauma in their lives, kind of like PTSD.
Right, because they're asking for help and they're reaching out, but they're having a hard time accessing that help.
Right. And that doesn't take away from elders or women or other people getting hurt and attacked and worse. That's not what they're saying. But they're just saying there's also this whole majority of people who are making these reports and they don't fit into those kind of headline grabbing incidents that we see. So what kind of actionable change can we help for our community? And the equity in education thing, that goes without saying. Not only is Asian American history invisible, it also, because it's invisible in schools, it's basically saying that we're irrelevant as people. And then when we do talk about Asian American history, we talk about it from a standpoint of injustice. So the Exclusion Act or the internment, which is important.
Yes.
Absolutely important. But what are our contributions to society? What are things that we can celebrate? When we talk about #AsianJoy or being very Asian, what are things that we can point to that we can celebrate?
It's very hard because people don't realize how much there is factored in when you're actually trying to quote unquote stop Asian hate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Educating people from an early basis and having them grow up in an environment where they can just be themselves. I think that in itself can maybe make more lasting changes because whenever we see it, it's more from a very confrontational standpoint.
Right. You get on the defensive. That makes sense.
But #very Asian, and we should play a drinking game as to how many times we say that today.
Maybe for our listeners today, that's what it's saying. Yo, how many shots of soju are you gonna do?
But it is very, 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 very positive. And I was thinking about this before. I'm not sure if you can resonate with this, Michelle, but sometimes Ben and I feel very #not Asian.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like hashtag every day. Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I'm 100% Chinese. Ben is 100% Korean.
Yeah.
Both our parents only speak their respective languages at home. And we have a very inclusive culture at home. And even with that as a foundation, we still have a very hard time struggling to connect on a deeper level with our own cultures.
Yeah.
And some of the crap that's happened the past couple of years and your movement more recently has kind of made me, at the very least, reevaluate things and say, damn, I need to get my act together. And kind of like embrace my culture a little bit more.
Right.
And I don't think that necessarily means running out there and screaming Asian pride in everyone's face.
I'm Chinese.
Right.
I love it. Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily about that.
Yeah.
It could be about that. You could do that if you want.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about just not being embarrassed about your heritage.
Right.
And not hiding it just to conform
to societal norms and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting, because that's where I think there's also this commonality between someone like me, who's a transracial adoptee, and someone like you who has, parents who can bring an inclusive culture into your lives, right? Because we still grew up feeling maybe not tied to that. Or maybe we did, but in different ways. Or maybe, I guess what I'm trying to say is when I have brought culture into my life, it's been very intentional. And I think that no matter where we are, all my friends who are my age, who grew up with, I grew up with white parents. There are a lot of people who did not grow up with white parents. And they still feel like they have to make this effort to kind of include culture into their lives. It doesn't matter if they spoke a different language when they were at home. It's just this idea of making that effort, and then also feeling like, kind of not stuck between two cultures by any means, but sort of.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make that definition for people, but it does feel like, okay, well, who am I? What am I? Do I fit in here? Do I not fit in here? We all are kind of having that same experience, because when I walk out the door, people don't go, oh, you're Charles and Sharon's daughter. They go, oh, you're an Asian person and I want to not serve you today.
That's actually, my dad always tells me all the time. He's like, son, in your heart of hearts, I know you think you're an American. You love the Yankees, you love eating pizza and stuff. I get it. But son, when they see your face, they don't see that. So just remember, I'm like, damn, you're right. There's some things you just can't change sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Going back on the foundation thing for a second, because I don't want to forget. To our listeners out there, I will post all the information down in the description box below, but they can go to very-asian.com.
Yes, we are in the process of getting another website, but I'm sure that one will be redirected, because we need a .org. We just kind of threw everything up on, on the interwebs as fast as we could.
As fast as you could, yeah.
So, but yes, very
dash. I think the main question is, who the hell took veryasian.com and how do we find that person? Without the dash.
Yeah, no kidding. Right?
For real, you're right.
If you own the domain, please reach out to us and then we'll put you in contact.
We're not going to beat you up.
We're not going to give you a lot of money either, but...
That domain probably only costs $15. Give it back.
We'll give you $16 for it right now.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. I don't know who has that. I don't think it's an actual website, because I went to it. I remember, and it was like one of those.
So someone just has the domain, but they're not doing anything with it. That's even worse.
They're just sitting on it.
That's even worse. That's so much worse. So to our listeners out there who want to get involved with your foundation, how can they do so?
Well, there are
strong start.
We love volunteers right now. I would love to get to a point where we can do other things, but we need volunteers for lots of different things. So a lot of people have reached out. Like, for instance, one woman who made some art for us is actually doing our logo. And I think that that's really cool. Then we've got a couple of students who want to do our social media. So I'm like, yes, you can do TikTok, because I can't do TikTok.
Oh my God.
That's perfect. She's like, yes.
Every time I try to do something on TikTok, I look so stupid. I just can't. There are so many times when I've tried to lip sync, do you realize how much time is lost by watching people just lip sync other things?
I have a friend like that.
I have someone like that.
Yeah.
She's called my wife.
She's going to be like, what the hell, man?
First of all, you lose so much time trying to actually get it right when you're doing it. But also, I realize when I'm scrolling, I'm just scrolling other people lip syncing the same thing over and over again. And then I'm like, that's so funny. And then I go to the next one. There is something wrong with that. And then
Yeah.
if you're on TikTok at all at night, it's like all just ASMR, like just a bunch of people
I
doing
know.
live fortune telling or live ASMR. It's so weird.
My friend, she's like, after I'm done with my shift, I just get a glass of wine, get on my couch, watch TikTok, and then she's like, oh my God, 8 hours have passed by. Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I know it. Maybe we should. Do people do mukbangs live on TikTok? Because I feel like that
They
would
must.
be a winner.
They definitely.
And if they don't, then Michelle, you, me, and Ben, we're gonna do that next time.
Yes, I'm down.
Okay.
Live mukbang. We can eat a lot.
We can eat a lot, Michelle. Yeah.
I can also eat a lot. So.
Yes.
Oh,
Perfect.
challenge accepted.
Perfect.
I did a wing contest once, though. That was the worst. Have you ever done a wing eating contest?
Oh, it's because it's messy.
No, because the meat. It's the meat.
It's too much meat.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I did like 2 wings, and I was like, I'm out. So,
What? Wait.
I don't believe you when you say you can eat a lot then.
Yeah, what do you mean?
well,
like,
I can, but it's like it makes sense when you can dunk it in water and it dissolves.
Is this like the hot dog eating contest
yeah,
where they're
yeah.
dunking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
they just drench it.
But if it's just a whole vat of wings, it's really hard to just take in all that stuff. So
When we do the mukbang
Maybe
thing, we will
noodles.
not do wings. We'll do noodles.
noodles.
Or like
We'll
a
do lots
big
and lots of
bowl
noodles.
of like pho or
Yeah.
So I will include the website information down below for our listeners out there. Please, please touch base. Michelle has merchandise on the website. Official #Very Asian merchandise.
sweet.
Unfortunately, she never has my size in stock.
Oh no, really?
Every time
We're
I go on,
working
it's
on
always
that.
sold out.
What size are you? What size do you want?
I'm a very small Asian person. I'm #Very Asian Small. But you never have size small in stock.
Here's the thing. Basically, when we first launched, my friend Gia did it, and so it was all print on demand. So that's how we got thousands of t-shirts out. Like, we had to stop because we have day jobs, and we were like, if we keep this going, we're not going to live. We can't do this. And so so we just stopped it after 7 days. But it was print on demand, and that can take longer. It's more expensive, you know, all that stuff. I don't know anything about anything. But then I've learned a lot. Now we're doing drop shipping or something.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is that then we sell out really fast. So we sell out on certain sizes. So I don't really understand how that's all working. We just need to find a sustainable solution.
Because you clearly have the demand there for it.
Yeah, and in the beginning, so with the print on demand option, we were shipping around the world. So our shirts were showing up in Holland and Germany,
Whoa.
Australia, Korea.
That's so cool.
And now, and Canada, lots of Canada.
Shout out.
Now we're just, shout out to Canada. Right now we're just doing yes. So we got to figure it out. We're just not there yet. And I'm hoping people don't get turn away before.
Yeah.
It's too late. Everything feels urgent. That's the thing. Like, everything feels like, we got to get this on now. Then we're just like, man, I'm tired. I got a 3-year-old. I got to get to bed. So I'll see you in the morning.
He needs ice cream. You hear him in the background.
Can you hear me, Mama?
Oh, where's my ice cream, Mom?
I need ice cream.
It was
Oh
5
my
minutes
God.
now.
It's so funny because, you do have passions, right? Like, you have passion projects, you have things that you always wish you could do. And then when you get the opportunity to do the things that you wished you could do, it's kind of terrifying.
Oh, 100%.
Well, how am I
yeah.
supposed to do that? How am I Oh, man, it's really easy to, set a goal that you're never going to reach. It's really easy to be like, oh yeah, this is what I would do if I won the lottery, and then it's like, then you're like, oh wait, now I have to do this? Oh my gosh, wow, okay.
Do you feel overwhelmed? Because there's so much going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Short answer. Because there's so much going on, not just with the foundation, but with your personal life.
I would never change anything. This all comes at the right time. This all comes, you realize in the past, what was a building block. You're like, oh, that was actually preparing me for this moment. I didn't realize it. But at the same time, I think a single person would be much better suited for this
Ben, you're single.
situation.
There we go.
Well, you know how you value time so much more as a parent.
100%.
When I was single or before kids, I was always like, I don't have enough time. And then when you have kids, you realize you
really don't have enough time. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
What the hell was
Lindsay
I
tells me
complaining
all the
about
time.
before?
So in the very beginning, I would go this is hard for me because I never go without eating. And in the very beginning, there would like be a whole day where I'd be like, I didn't eat today. What? Because it would just be like, I would sit at my desk. I would try to do all this foundation work, trying to get things moving. I mean, I don't know how to do anything. So I have a lot of support from people in St. Louis and in Minneapolis and
that's good.
Seattle.
Nice.
But at the same time, it's like still kind of like wrangling cats.
You must have felt that sense of urgency, at least trying to take advantage of all the momentum that you had behind you.
Yeah.
And like that makes you want to do things as fast as possible.
Right.
It does. And like the day will start out like with a blank canvas, and then it'll be like, hey, can you hop on this call? Hey, can you set up this interview? And I love it. Like I really am grateful for it and humbled by it. But then I just am like, oh no, I forgot to put that in the calendar. So now I'm double booked. It's like, oh man. So I feel like I'm failing sometimes.
Michelle, you are not failing.
You're just going with the flow or flowing with the go, right? It's just like ebbs.
I don't
feel
think
you.
anyone could have handled what happened to you. Going viral on this level and then trying to turn that into something positive.
Right,
Because
yeah.
lots of people go viral, they get their 15 minutes of fame, you know,
boom.
and then what, 2-3 weeks later, you have no idea who they are, right?
That's true.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's so good that you're taking advantage of all this and trying to turn it into something positive and something tangible.
Yeah.
Well, do you think, I mean, honestly, my 15 minutes is up, right? Or I don't even know how, like, what's happening to me? I don't know.
She's
So you
like,
tell me.
what's the scoop? Like, yo, where am I right now? Where am I?
Scoop on that Michelle Lee girl. I mean, I really don't know because I just live in my bubble, you know? So do you think this is something, I always feel really silly saying movement, but other people say that, so now I'm just going with it. But like, do you think this is an actual movement that can sustain itself and be something for people?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay.
There are people that still don't know. And then when I tell them, they're like, oh, shoot, let me check that out. So, you know, like that was a really real moment right there. I just think like in your situation with everything that's happened, you're probably the best person to be able to like tackle this kind of situation. And it's been evolving from when you first started until now.
Right. I think the
wow.
internet has taken your hashtag very Asian and just ran with it. It's such a positive
Exactly.
spin
Yes.
on everything.
Yes.
The past 2 years have definitely been very, very shitty.
Hashtag.
Hashtag very, very shitty.
Yeah, make it into a shirt.
But finally seeing a positive spin on this, and of course we need to do what we can to stop Asian hate and to stop everything that's going on, but we can also simultaneously embrace our culture
Yeah.
and move forward in that fashion.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it could be possible that your 15 minutes of fame are over. I mean, you are on the worst Asian podcast right now. This is the bottom of the barrel.
Sorry, Michelle.
We're just scraping at everything at this point.
We got her.
I mean, what was the top? Ellen? She's the top.
Yeah.
Okay, she was the top.
That was-
Yeah.
So if she's the top of the roller coaster, we're like that swing at the bottom.
Get out of here. Oh my God.
This guy.
But you know, I do love how you can have grief and gratitude in the same.
Definitely. On a more serious note, we live in New York City, which for better or worse, it gives us access to a lot of things in the Asian American community, but it also puts us in ground zero of stuff that's going on. Very recently, we had the senseless theft of Christina Lee.
Yeah.
And the sentiment that I'm getting more recently in the past couple of days is one, first, of course, anger and frustration.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put this on you, obviously, because I know you don't have all the answers, but I think it's something that's worth discussing right now. To those that feel very defeated and cynical about things that are happening right now, is there something that we can tell them to kind of keep them on their feet?
Well, you know, to me, I think that goes back to the actionable changes, right? It's so hard because I don't want to say the wrong thing and like say something that's hurtful to our community or hurtful to people. But, you know, when you look at what happened, that person who killed her,
Right.
like went through the system and the system failed.
100%.
Multiple times.
And that person is ultimately responsible for her death. So I'm not saying that. But like, I don't know. I mean, is that a hate crime? Do we know it was a hate crime?
Yeah.
What part was a mental illness? What part was a systemic failure? And what kind of change can come from that? You know, because it just seems like there are so many things that could have prevented him from being out in the world. And that didn't happen. But I don't know. like, I don't know the answer. I feel like I want to make sure that I'm not victim blaming. I want to make sure that I'm not hurting our community. I want to make sure that, like, everything's investigated properly. Like, yeah, I mean, you could still have a mental illness and still do a hate crime, So, I mean, I want to make sure that everything's investigated and all those things. And then I think on the other side, like, what can we do as a community to protect ourselves? If the system's not going to protect us, how do we protect ourselves? What does that look like? I'm seeing a lot more, and not to say that this is why I want to be careful because I don't want to victim blame, can we do more to defend us, to defend our community, whether that's learning about situational awareness or resources. I don't know,
yeah.
because it's really hard. You should be able to walk in and out of your apartment and not get harmed.
100%.
Exactly.
And that's really the bottom line. But I just think that so many things have failed us, and I don't know what the answer is. So, it's
there
hard.
is no direct answer to things like this. Some people push for change and they expect a answer right there, one singular answer that's going to solve all our problems. But living in the real world, that's never the case though.
Right.
Kind of have to tackle everything from all different angles, from a macro level, from a micro level.
Right.
And then from there, we can just hope for the best. Because even if we try our best, that does not always mean you're going to see immediate change.
Yeah.
I think part of what gets people very cynical sometimes too is they are proactive and they do things and they see people trying to push things in the right direction. But if they don't see that immediate change, that immediate tangible change, then they get very defeated.
Yeah.
But I want to tell our listeners out there that just because you don't see the change in the news or immediate change right away, that does not mean change is not happening on the ground level.
Right. Well, news people and newsrooms, I shouldn't say news people, but they like those things that grab headlines. And it's not because they are jerks necessarily, but they know that people just don't have the attention span. And I'm not trying to blame the viewers either, but I mean, it's the reality. Like, you see shocking video, there's a reason why during the, this is a ratings period. February is a ratings period.
Oh, is it?
Television.
Oh, okay.
February, May, July, November are the 4 big ratings periods where people base all their advertising on who wins the month. That's why you see, like, stories like, your cereal can kill you, cow at 10, I mean, literally, that's why, or it's always like something about teens and drugs. I mean, I just did a teens and drug story last night, so I shouldn't myself. But it's always like those bigger pieces because people need to see video off the top. Viewers get distracted. I do think people are into issues and they want to know more, but people always say things like, I'd love to see happy news. I wish that the news had more happy stories. And then you go online and the numbers don't lie because we get like the top numbers, the top clickable stories. And it's always like some woman got decapitated here and some man, the sex crime happened here. It's always like these horrible, horrific stories. And so news people also know, well, people lie about what they want to see and what they want to do. So you've got to push, if you're really interested, you've got to kind of, how you can kind of change being cynical. Like, you can be a part of the process in terms of like finding solutions and then making the media and your community cover those things, because right now, of course, you're going to get the perp walk where, the guy who killed Christina is talking to Sifan and he's like, I didn't kill her or whatever, that's going to be at the top of the newscast, right? Like, that's going to be the thing that you see. But like, follow up. Like, how do we follow up with that? And how do we help journalists follow up with that too? Because journalists are getting thrown everywhere and they're going to get thrown to the next beating or murder or whatever, because that's just how it is. I hate saying that because you want journalism to make change too. And there are people who do that. I mean, there are people who do that, and we do also have to see those incidents too to make change. So it's just difficult.
Speaking of change, like just being a journalist, I guess in the past 10 years, 20 years, like so much has changed. Just how like social media and like how we get our news, just everything's been changing so fast. Doing the podcast right now. And last we checked, right? I just want to make sure. Last we checked, Very Asian Podcast was not yet taken.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, I don't think it hasn't been taken yet. Since we're just, throwing ideas. We're her unofficial, a PR team. Have you thought about starting another podcast or maybe rebrand?
Well, I thought about doing a listening series.
Okay.
I am non-committal. I also was going to do a very lazy, very Asian book club. And I could also do a very lazy, very Asian listening series.
That sounds very relaxing.
No, I mean, I want to do all those things, but like, I also realize if starting out slow would be better so that I'm not disappointing someone like, we're going to do a podcast. And then it's like, we're going to do a podcast once a month, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
They just want you to pump out the content.
Yeah, because the day job situation and the parenting situation and then just getting the foundation solid so that we can, go to donors and say, these are our 3 principles and these are what we need. These are where your dollars go. So we've got to do a lot of back end work. But I think that in reality, for people to support the Very Asian Foundation or movement or whatever, we have to come up with ways that we're going to make, investments in actionable change and get funding. And then also we have to, give something to people so that they'll want to come back every day or every week. If we're just reposting the same people in shirts, which I actually am reposting all of them. So,
Well, not me, because I don't have a shirt just yet.
yeah. Well, we'll change that. We'll get that to you. But I just want it to be meaningful for people when they come to the account.
That's true.
We just have to work our way into that.
I feel so stressed just listening to you with all the things you have to do. I don't know why Ben's throwing the podcast idea out, because you have enough on your plate.
Yeah, maybe just more hugs for Michelle. More hugs.
Well, journalists do have to, honestly, journalist parents, you just juggle. That's all you have to do is you just juggle. But let me ask you, so you guys are podcasters, right? Do you consider yourselves citizen journalists? Like, what do you consider yourselves as?
You go first.
Okay. I've always phrased it this way, and this may be a lot of BS, but Ben and I are trying to, in some very weird way through this podcast, reconnect in a deeper level with our Asian heritage, respectively, Chinese and Korean.
Yeah.
We call ourselves the worst Asian podcast because we are the worst, shittiest personifications of an Asian person.
Yeah.
But that should not stop us from having these discussions, right?
Exactly.
No one should be gatekeeping on what we can talk about. And if we have a genuine interest in our culture.
Yeah.
More importantly is also that there's actually something physical there.
We always joke about not having the facts on this podcast. That's an ongoing joke between the two of us.
We don't. The opposite of what a real journalist does.
Right. What we do try to do is we ask these questions and hopefully their interest is piqued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I would say that that's exactly what a journalist does, though.
Does it?
Yeah, because, for us, we attribute everything, right? So, I could go to a fire scene, for example. I don't know why I'm talking about crimes and stuff, but breaking news. But you can go to a crime scene, you can go to a fire, and someone on one end of the building will see something totally different than someone on the other end of the building. But they're both facts, and as long as you attribute it to the person, then you're covered, right? You can't. I think when you do news for so long, you realize that there are so many truths because it's the truth as people know it. And even when data comes out, actual numbers or whatever, it's still kind of a guess. When you say, for instance, the city does a homeless count. Well, that doesn't really mean that all the homeless people, all the unhoused people were actually counted. It just means of what they saw. And not only that, but as soon as those numbers are collected and printed and sent out, they're dated. Yeah, because that's changed. What happened last month. So this idea of searching for truth or searching for stories, journalists like to call themselves storytellers. In some ways, I don't like that because I always think of storytellers as people who are just full of BS. But, you've always got a friend he can tell some stories. But really, journalists base themselves in storytelling. And that's what we are. You're the first line of history, really, and so that's what you're doing. So whether you want to call yourself citizen journalists, independent journalists, I think
worst
that's
Asian
exactly
podcasters.
There you go. Another one.
Yeah. Content creators, all those things. So, if you want to be a part of the Asian American Journalists Association, that would be good.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
A little plug.
Oh, yeah, a little.
Because, what you're doing is good work. So, and you're doing work for not just for the community, but for people in New York, people around the world, people in the Asian community, people who want to be better allies, all those things. So, So don't discredit yourself, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
I think we've taken a lot of your time so far, and I know as a parent,
Thank you so much, by the way,
I
Michelle.
can feel the anxiety that you have. I can like,
No, I don't have any. This is so cathartic. This is so good. Like, I really love. Once I get going, I feel like I could talk your ears off for like 3 hours, and then you'd be like, "Please stop talking."
we're not saying that at all.
Please be quiet now.
One segment that we do on every single podcast, it's called Ranting and Raving. It's just a lighthearted way for us to end each podcast. We take a couple minutes, each, the guest and us, the podcast host, to rant or rave about any random thing that's happening in your life. It could be completely off topic. It could be complete BS. It doesn't matter. So I will start things off. And I was hoping maybe later, Michelle, if you think of anything, you can join in too.
Okay.
I was dropping off both my son and my wife to work this morning.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, last night I must have not charged my phone. So I woke up this morning with maybe 16% battery.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So I had to, of course, immediately leave the house.
Okay.
You know what I miss? I miss the days, and this may be dating myself, but I miss the days when I had a cell phone and I had a separate spare battery, actual battery that I could carry in my bag and then just pop open the back of my phone. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I remember going to school and having 2-3 batteries. I was never anxious about my phone dying because I could just carry extra batteries around. I so miss those days. And I get that technology with waterproofing your phone and having a phone enclosed, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't lead itself to that. But I really wish I could just like pop open even if it's double A batteries, I just want to like pop them into my phone and not have to worry about that.
You know, I was thinking about, like how we're all moving into like EV cars now, right? Teslas and all that. Man, imagine you just forgot to charge your car. And then you just kind of like...
It's just dead in the morning.
You're like, I can't go to
can't
work.
go anywhere. I
It's
know,
like, why not? I didn't charge my car. Like, my bad, boss.
So to any phone manufacturers out there, please make my dream come true. Please bring back swappable batteries. You got anything, bud?
I don't have a rant, but I do have a rave, I want to say. Michelle, I saw some of like your wedding photos and stuff, and you're wearing the Hamburg thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I noticed, correct me if I'm wrong, but like your husband, he had to do all that stuff. I have an aunt and uncle. My uncle's German and my aunt is Korean. When they got married and stuff, they have pictures of like, the traditional Hamburg dresses and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it's so funny. Like, yeah, I know that. I can relate to that.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's so funny because, they're so bright, right? Like when you get married,
they
it's
are.
like bright pink and bright blue. And also my sister, because she ordered mine and she was living in Korea at the time, she must have ordered like a 3XL. And so like, I show up in Korea.
They're baggy. Yeah.
I mean, they're baggy, but mine was like extra baggy. And I was like, how big does she think I am?
Oh my God.
All people have like such a... all Korean people have this way of telling you you're overweight, or
that's
just
my
like
dad.
not
Key
enough.
insult.
That's my dad all day.
So I was like, I came out of the room in this, big pink and blue thing, and I was like, oh. And I looked at my husband. I go, "Does this look stupid?" He goes, "Does it matter?" I was like, "Yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter because we're in it."
Yeah, you're in it. You didn't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it is what it is. But yeah, I thought it was really cool seeing that. I was like, oh, snap. That's what's up, man. Like, just seeing like him, like, yo, I love her. I'll do it. Let's do it, yo. It's really cool.
Yeah, he loved it. You know what? If you're a white guy in Korea, I mean, how do you not love your life? Because everyone like comes up to you, talks about your milky white skin, how tall you are.
Oh,
They're
that is so
impressed with you.
true.
Yes, the height thing. It's like, oh, you have facial hair? Well, can I touch it?
They're so like, oh, you like spicy? I'm like, oh my God, what? Yes.
Oh, man.
I had all my aunts, like all my aunts trying to feed my husband. I was like, you're
That's
just
so
totally
funny.
That's hilarious.
Remember, yo, you're the one that pointed out, you're like, yo, you know what I love about Korean food? It's like, yo, you guys have such long ass spoons. I was like,
That is true.
And I never thought about it because I was like, that's just what I thought is a spoon.
Yeah.
Until I was like, oh shit, you're right, dude. I didn't think about that.
Everything is relative because you are used to these long spoons in your Korean household. But
Exactly.
When I get it, I'm so amazed this thing can reach across the table
Yeah,
for all the banchan.
He's like, is this a ladle? No, that's your individual spoon, sir.
Yeah, we've got those spoons in our house. I use them for everything. I don't even use my regular spoons.
There you go.
Perfect.
Those are my regular spoons.
Do you have anything that you want to rant and rave about, Michelle, and that don't want to put you on spot?
Well, I was thinking, like, what would I rant about? Because I'm still really upset about the pandemic,
Mm.
and I'm really upset that, like, my son, which we have, 3-year-olds who cannot get out in the world. Like, no one is talking about. I mean, they are talking about it, but it seems like it's just like muffled. No one is talking about the fact that parents with young kids, 4 and younger, are just totally held hostage by their children.
Good term.
And their preschools, like my son's in quarantine, but I'm not in quarantine, so my job's like this. You got to come to work, and I'm like, well, who's gonna watch my kid? It's just stuff like that, and it's like I really wish that he could get a vaccine so that we could just go travel or something.
Maybe
Everything is
soon.
like we don't go to restaurants, we don't do anything, and I'm here for it because it's like it's what it is. But at the same time, I'm like,
you're like, let me out of this prison.
I just want to get out. I just want to do things because after 2 years, it's like this is enough. So I don't want to come across as like a weirdo. I'm just saying I'm ready.
It's
I'm
true.
ready.
You're not the only one. You're
It's
not
true.
the only one on that.
Because I have paranoia too about.
You're really good about like making
I've been
sure.
lucky,
You've been
knock on
really
wood,
good.
to dodge it so far. My whole immediate family has, but I feel you because we don't know what these lasting consequences of a young boy who needs to go out there and socialize and not getting the chance to do that. We don't know what the long-term effects of that are.
Yeah, you're right, man.
So we have to like find that balance and just it's so hard with a young kid these days.
I think it's gonna get better though. It looks like it.
Fingers
Knock on
crossed.
wood. Knock on
Got
wood.
to.
Yeah, I know.
Michelle, it was such an honor talking to you today. We are so excited that you were able to find the time from your busy schedule for us. Once again, Michelle's foundation, the Very Asian Foundation, I will have all the information down below. If you are looking to volunteer for a very good cause, be sure to do so. Check out the website, she'll have all the information there in case there's any more information in the future. If you're listening to this episode past the beginning of 2022, I will stay in contact with Michelle in case there's any updated websites, in case you've changed and you've gotten the guy who has the Very Asian, no dash.
That's right.
I'm going to find that
No
guy.
dash, no slash, nothing.
I will keep all the information down below up to date so you can always check it out no matter when you're listening to this episode. Is there any place where people on the internet can cyberstalk you?
Oh, just on social media.
What's your handle on social media?
At Michelle Lee TV.
There you
Perfect.
That's where I am on basically everything.
Perfect. Can't forget it.
Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap this up?
No, I just really appreciate your interest and the time. I had such a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us
Yeah,
your
for
time.
real. This was really fun. Thank you.
We had
Thank
such
you.
a blast.
Thank you so much. If you ever come to St. Louis, look me up.
Oh,
Yo.
definitely.
Probably won't, but you never know.
Go Cardinals.
That's right.
That's right, yo.
That's right.
I'll drop off my son to you and then I'll fly back to New York.
Okay.
It'll be good
I
to
hear
go.
that.
She's gonna feed him ice cream. So yeah,
Yeah,
I got you, yo.
I've got ice cream. I've got ice cream on tap. So your son is adorable. I've seen him on your Instagram.
Oh,
right?
thank you. Yeah.
That's super cute.
Thank you. Okay, I will include all of Michelle and her foundation's information down in the description box. Be sure you check out her foundation. You see what she's about. If you're curious what me and Ben are about and what we're doing on a daily basis, you can follow us on all our socials at the same exact handle, Worst Asian Pod. That's Worst Asian Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, every single thing. We are most active on Instagram, I would say, right?
Definitely mostly on Instagram, yeah. You can pretty much track what we're doing, any announcements we have to do, behind the scene footage, definitely.
In case you're curious what our faces look like.
Right.
We'll be back next week with a brand new episode on Thursday, same as every single week. Stay tuned. Until then, everybody, stay safe.
Goodbye.
See ya.